So the first rule of militias is we don't use the word militia. And that's because words have very understood meanings. There are legal descriptions that are attached to words, and this is not dissimilar. One of the number one questions that I get asked is, hey, Top, how do we go about having these types of conversations to grow a community, to grow a militia? Team, in this video, we're going to deep dive into this. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and your comments down below as we all continue to master our craft and develop our tactical virtue. I'm going to break this down into a few different categories about starting with what the type of group that we're talking about, right? The type of folks that we want in this group, as well as some of the skill sets, the competencies, and the attributes that we should be trying to foster and develop, and then a way forward after you have a few pals together. Now, one of the very first rules of militias is just like Fight Club. You don't talk about it. You don't use the word. And the reasoning that I'm going to give you behind this is that words have very intentional and legal meanings. Now, we can talk up one side and down the other about historical militias, what the role of current militias may or may not be, but the one thing that you could not argue with a straight face is that historically speaking, militias were seen as a private entity. They are not private organizations. They are public and community. And that means that there is a sense and a degree of accountability that is much lacking in many of the groups. And that's why a lot of dudes they don't want to use the word militia. Like, we're just a group of dudes, right? Some people use community action groups or mutual assistance groups or whatever you want to call it. We're just talking about a group of dudes getting together to do some things, right? And but there again, I would caution, don't use the word militia in your name and how you talk to others about it or whatever, because you're going to invite things that you probably don't want, and you're probably not a militia anyways, no matter how low speed and high drag that your group is. So what are the types of dudes, right? I think at the end of the day, you want a group of dudes together. I'm going to try to stop using the word dude. You want a group of guys that have shared common virtues, values, and beliefs, right? That has to be primary. You think the same things about the bigger things and the most important things in life. Your faith, your family, your friends. You have a group of pals. Once you have 2 or 3 good pals, man, you got a tribe. And so I want to foster some friendships. Now, over the course of my life, I've had and have now a few good friends. But if you're like me, you probably have a fire team worth of pals that are your 2 a.m. pals, right? You can call me at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and regardless of what the situation is, I will get ready to go do some sketchy shit for you and you for me, right? It's probably not more than maybe 3 or 4 good dudes like that. Outside of that, you may have a larger sphere. We'll call this our squad. Guys that we get together with maybe every now and then, have a barbecue with or whatever. And we have a bunch of other folks in our community, in our life, that may feed into us in one degree or another. And so I'm gonna relate to that group as our platoon, right? And I'm kind of bringing this back into a little bit of a military perspective, because if you've served, you know that a fire team is extremely tight. We slept, ate, and shit all in the same places And quite frankly, we filled some holes in the same ways as well. Sometimes, hey, whatever. A squad have a little bit more camaraderie, and we look upon other squads, with a competitive nature. But we still hold our identity as a platoon stronger than we do than how we look at other folks. Now, the people that I want, if I was trying to build something from scratch, I already know. Again, I want a group of folks who has the same perspectives on the big things and the big questions in life. We're all going towards the same destination. We're trying to get there together. We're not there yet. We're trying to get there. I want a group of folks who are diverse in competencies, right? Attributes are similar, and there's good productivity to have a little bit of differences in some of the details of some of those attributes. And that attribute is what or who we are, right? And a competency is what we do. So I want folks who can do some different things. I would like an engineer, right? Like construction, moving and working heavy pieces of equipment. Can transport from A to B. Knows the area, knows the vendors, knows how to get some big things done. I like to have somebody who is really good at all things communications based. Now that may be more than one person at the end of the day, depending on the skill sets of the individual. But I really want a good radio guy, and preferably that guy to be really good at all things over IP based, right? So good with networking, good with data, good with radio transmissions. That would be ideal. I want another guy who's really good at gathering information, right? Gathering information and then presenting it to the group. Need a really good medic, somebody who has some real world experience of plugging holes, sewing some stitches, and piecing some dudes back together, right? Knows how to not doesn't just have books on the shelf, but knows how to read them and then execute, and has actually done that preferably professionally, right? Need somebody who's a good marksman. I'm talking really trained and proficient. And I want everybody to be trained and proficient in marksmanship. But I need one person who's just the go-to person for repairs, right? For instruction, for capabilities, and for designing defensive operations as it relates to that aspect of it anyways. I want a good carpenter. I want a good plumber. I want somebody who's good at HVAC. Right? We're starting to see how this is growing beyond just a few guys. Now we're talking really about how the squad is oriented together. And ideally, and go on, man. I want folks in my life who are good at all the trades. I want folks who can piece together all of this stuff into a training plan that makes sense. Let's talk about training plans. So I think ideally that fire team probably should be getting together like a lot. Like you have your signal chat group or however it is that you guys want to communicate. But this is your primary, like, holding each other accountable group of folks. You communicate almost daily, if not daily. You go out and you have breakfast once a week. You get together once a week after work for a few minutes. Maybe you head down and have a beer, smoke a stogie, talk about life. This is your core group of pals. But you also have some other core groups of pals that you get together with. And it's okay that they're closer to each other than they are with you, because together you're still one team. And so they're doing the exact same thing. They're holding each other accountable, talking daily, getting together, shooting the shit. And this one over here is doing the same thing. And now I got 3 fire teams of pals. Man, you're freaking unstoppable. So you want to get together, and then you have you have your larger group, right? This platoon. These are force multipliers. They may be in other parts of the country, other parts of the county, other parts of the state, but you all can all still feed into each other, whether it's information based, whether it's logistics or sustainment operations. And so you want to come together, you want to figure out, how are we going to do this thing? And I would submit to you to take a model would be, let's figure out some sort of culminating event. And then after we have that, let's detail out some key tasks that we need to work on. Maybe that culminating event is just linking up at somebody's house in that squad, right? So now you have all of the things that go into that. And we'll assume it's for an emergency situation. There's some sort of a civil disturbance or whatever it is that you want to make up for this scenario. What are all the things that you need to do in order to be able to just get to somebody's place? So now we're thinking about communications that you need to work through and rehearse and come up with a real plan that works for your area. And then you have your primary, your alternate, your contingency, and your emergency forms of communication. And you work through all of them. Through your cell phones, through your emails, through your radio, through some local physical message boards. You talk about communications on the move and convoy operations, link-up points and phase lines, and how you're going to identify friendly forces en route and after you get to where you're trying to get to, right? Of course, maybe you want to work on some individual and team movement, dismounted, as well as some fire control, maybe some medic stuff, right? And so now you have all of these larger individual items or areas of emphasis that you need to train on. So however this works for you, maybe that fire team gets together, right, and trains, does some talk-throughs, some walk-throughs. You crawling, you're walking, crawling, you get together with everybody else, and now you start running, right? So maybe once a month you're getting together with your fire team for half a day to do some training. Maybe once every other month you're getting together with your squad to do some training. Maybe you can train once a month. That's probably a big ask for a lot of folks because there's a lot of life. And that ultimately, that life happening is more important to a big degree than all this other stuff, because that life happening and you sharing the trials and the tribulations of life is how you grow a deeper connection, right? That was extremely rude of me. It's how you grow deeper connections. And once that bond is deepened, then regardless of what happens, you have somebody who has your back and they know that you have their back. You can pull out a call to action to get some work done, and you know that dudes are going to show up. It matters. Showing up and being present matters more than anything else. So now you start working on these things, once a month, once every other month. Then that at the end of the year, wherever that fits in, you work through this culminating event. I would submit that aside from just training, once every other month, man, get together with your whole squad, right? And invite some of those platoon guys to come in if you can. Have a barbecue with each other. Rotate where you do this to different folks' homes. The last thing that you want is for somebody to feel isolated or to feel like they are giving more than they are receiving. We're talking about a community. We're talking about pals. We're talking about friends. We're talking about our partners in crime, for crying out loud, right? These are guys that I want to go and hang out with. We're going to go camping with families and friends. And yes, we're going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about the second, third order of effect of decisions that happen in our community, in our county, in our state, and in our country. Maybe we're going to go to some meetings in our county, right? Together to voice a collective, or to share a collective voice. Maybe we're going to go talk to our sheriff, see what their plans are for different things. Get to know some folks and have some folks get to know you. Be intentional with how you build. So how do I find some of these folks, right? If they're not already in my walk, maybe I don't have hardly anybody who shares those same virtues, values, and those beliefs. I may have some dudes I talk with at the water cooler at work or whatever the case is, but nobody I can really deep dive into stuff. So here's what you do. You start talking story. And more than anything else, you start listening to story. You start listening for some of those shared belief systems and value sets. You give out some open-ended questions rather than closed questions. I want to hear what you have to say. What do you think about what's going on in the world today? What do you think one thing is that we could all work on and get better at in case something crazy, unexpected happens? Where am I going to ask people these questions? I could go down to mom and pop gun store. Could be at church. Could be with some of those folks that are in my circle that I don't know anything about or I don't know enough about. Because I haven't taken the time to invest in their life and they haven't taken the time to invest in mine yet. We don't know that under the surface there's already some shared tensions, shared hope that just has to be knocked on and discovered that it's there beneath the surface. All kinds of folks out there share the things that you and I value. We just need to work towards it together and to figure out that way. It's a mess. It's life. It's okay. Some people may come and go from your circle. That's okay. Thing is to keep moving. Team, I appreciate you guys. Drop some thoughts down below on this. How do you grow a team if you don't already have a team? If you have a team, how do you make that team better? Your thoughts, your comments are what makes this video and all other videos on the channel important. It's not what this dude says. I'm just one guy. You all bring depth and life experience Team, I appreciate you guys. Until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked. Team, if you want to master your craft and develop your tactical virtue, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on future content. Consider becoming a channel member. It's going to give you exclusive access to content not available to anybody else. I appreciate you guys. Until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.
We know you're out there! Come to my voice!